Hey guys, welcome to my home. You know, when we look at stories of Jesus in the Bible and the different road trip stops that he took, one of the things that we see over and over again is how Jesus went to people's homes. And somebody's home, I mean, it's more than just the place you live, right? I mean, it's this place that kind of represents who you are. It's your place where you're most yourself, where you don't have to try to act a certain way in front of people. And it was really significant that Jesus went to people's homes and met with them there. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is one particular story where Jesus went to visit this one guy in his home. Let's go check it out. So here's what's going on in the story. At this point in Jesus' ministry, he was really popular. Word had spread around the whole country that he was doing these crazy miracles, and he was healing people and even raising people from the dead. So everywhere that Jesus went, thousands of people came out to hear him teach and to see him perform miracles, and they brought their sick family members and friends to try to get healed. So word had spread that Jesus was going to come to this town, and tons of people came out, almost like a parade route. If you've been to a parade before, and you know how before the parade starts, people line up and they camp on the sides of the streets, and they have their little folding chairs, and they kind of jockey for position, and some people are down in front on little blankets, and other people are behind in chairs, and they got this whole thing going. Well, that's kind of what was going on here. And so Jesus is showing up, and he starts to walk through this town, and there's mobs of people, and he's stopping and he's healing people. And there's this guy named Zacchaeus. Now, I'm going to tell you a little more about Zacchaeus later on, but Zacchaeus was not somebody people liked very much. And the funny thing the Bible tells us about Zacchaeus was that he was this really short dude. He was powerful and he was mean and people didn't like him, but he was just a really little short dude. In fact, some of us who went to church when we were little kids and stuff probably grew up singing this song about Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he. Did you ever hear that song before? And so anyhow, Zacchaeus is this little guy and nobody likes him, and so he wants to see Jesus. He's curious about who this Jesus guy is, but he knows that nobody wants him around and that he's not going to be able to see if he's standing in the parade crowd. And so Zacchaeus does this really creative and cool thing. He finds a tree, and actually the Bible says a sycamore tree, and he hides up in the tree. He climbs up into the tree so that he can get a view of Jesus. And Jesus is walking past the tree, and he looks up and he sees Zacchaeus in there. I have to imagine at that moment that Zacchaeus felt a little bit stupid, being this little guy stuck up in the tree, and everybody's watching, seeing him up there. And Jesus looks up at him. Of course, remember, Jesus is God, so he knows everything. And he sees Zacchaeus, and he knows who he is. He's not somebody that people would normally talk to, because Zacchaeus is this hated dude. But Jesus looks up at him, and he says, Zacchaeus, I want you to come on down from the tree, because you know what? I'm going to go to your house today, and you and I are going to have lunch together. Does that sound okay? That's what happened. So in Jewish homes back in the day when the Bible was written, most families lived like not just mom and dad and a couple kids. Most of their homes were built for the whole family, the extended family, like grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles all lived together in one kind of big home. And often the home was built almost like a U shape. So there were rooms around the outside, and then there was just kind of a wooden gate on the front, and then the inside had this like courtyard area, and a lot of their living was done in that courtyard area. They would use the rooms for sleeping and storing their stuff, but a lot of the activity of the family would take place in that courtyard. So we're going to go out to Zacchaeus' courtyard in his home right now and have this little meal and talk a little bit more about his story. So come on out to the courtyard. Zacchaeus, you have a beautiful courtyard here. Love it, very beautiful. So here's the deal. It's one thing for you to go to your friend's house to have dinner. It's one thing to imagine Jesus going and having a meal with, one of the disciples or their parents or family, or, the people that you would consider kind of the good people. But here's the deal with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a tax collector. He was this guy who worked for the Roman government. he was Jewish, so he was part of the people of the Hebrew people, but he was working for the Roman government, who were like the oppressors, the people the Jewish people didn't like very much. And his job was to get money to give to the Roman government from the Jewish people. So that the tax collectors were known for being evil and for cheating people and taking more money than was really due, because the tax collectors knew they could really take whatever they wanted, because if the people didn't pay, then they could cause all kinds of problems with them with the government and stuff like that. So the tax collectors were like more hated by the Jewish people than almost anybody else in the whole land. And that's what Zacchaeus was. So for Jesus to go and actually have a meal with Zacchaeus was like something that was really surprising to people and didn't really make sense. In fact, the Bible tells us that some of Jesus' disciples were really upset with him for going to have this meal with Zacchaeus. Why would he do that? And a lot of people who had even seen this take place and saw Jesus walking with Zacchaeus to Zacchaeus' house would have thought this was extremely strange for Jesus to do this. It would have upset all kinds of things that were normal for them, or things that they would have defined as good. You would have never found one of the Jewish priests who would have gone and met with a tax collector. So it was a really big deal, and it was very uncommon. And that's really what we want to look at today, is how Jesus didn't just do common things. He didn't just meet with the good people. Jesus wanted to go and share a meal, have this intimate conversation in the home of somebody that everyone hated. Somebody who had messed up, somebody whose life was full of sin, who had made lots of mistakes and bad choices and mistreated people. Jesus didn't come to tell him, you're a dirtbag and you need to change. Jesus came to show him love and to show him acceptance. And in the middle of that, Zacchaeus realizes his sinfulness, and he says, I'm going to change my ways. In fact, I'm going to pay back 4 times everything I stole from anybody. So that's kind of what we're going to learn from the story of Zacchaeus. We're going to talk in a minute about how we can apply that to our own lives. Zach, let's grub up.